The Cats Whiskers podcast is proudly sponsored by the Bunkers Hill Hockley. Don't miss Panthers game day offers, including Coors Light at £2.50 a pint.
Good evening, it is Monday the 12th of February and we're going for possibly an uncomfortable Cats Whiskers podcast live. Hello, good evening and welcome. As I previously mentioned, this might be an uncomfortable one, but we'll plough through it anyway. Any of you who listened to our mini podcast stroke group therapy session on Saturday night after the game will possibly have an idea of how we're probably feeling right now. But yes, we're going to plough through the games against the Sheffield Steelers and the Cardiff Devils. Not forgetting, actually, and I nearly did, our Challenge Cup exit at the hands of the Belfast Giants last Wednesday. And here with me to collectively put our arms around each other and try and tell each other it's okay. Round the table tonight is Antoine Marie-Jean.
Hello! I'm
and
really
Paul
excited to be here.
Hello.
Well, I'm glad you're excited, Anto. I hope you've got enough enthusiasm for the rest of us. Okay, cast your minds back to last Wednesday when we valiantly attempted to claw back the deficit that we had put ourselves through in the second leg of the Challenge Cup semi-final over in Belfast against the Giants. Lots and lots of goals, a 7-6 finish in the Giants' favour. Goals coming from the Panthers, from David Clark with 2. New guy, Vasquivo, managed to get himself on the scoreboard nice and early. Zach Phillips on the power play, Brett Pellini and DeLego. Opposition goals coming from Silvestri with 2, Riley on the power play with 2 on the power play, in fact. Colin Shields and Furland with 2 empty net goals. Lot of little interesting tidbits to talk about there. So, yeah, as I alluded to earlier, a surprising amount of goals given our inability to score just lately, Ant.
I don't know how much that was down to Belfast's allergic to ice goalie. I did try to look at some stats beforehand, and it doesn't look like he's played that much. So obviously
no, he hasn't. He's not had a lot of games for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were in a perfect position to play him. Unfortunately, because of the demolition job they did at the NIC, previous to that. So, credit where credit's due. Panthers obviously went for it. Speaking to a friend from Belfast, he was saying that to him it looked like the team actually believed they could do it. They were clapping and getting behind. Shot blocks and all sorts, and so that was nice to hear. And it's just a pity we conceded those 2 late goals at the end of the second period and put ourselves in that position where, I mean, again, credit to Corey for having the gonads to pull your keeper with 10 minutes to go. I know it blew up in our face spectacularly, but we're out if we don't score, so we might as well give it a go.
Yeah, and we'll just sort of touch on that for a moment. Yeah, Corey Nielsen pulling the goalie. I think it was just over 10 minutes, either 10 minutes remaining or 10 minutes gone in the third period. I mean, we conceded that's how we conceded the 2 empty net goals. But I haven't seen that done myself since I think it was the Continental Cup, and I want to say it was against Riga Juniors when they did it to us. Paul, you've got a good memory for those sorts of things.
Oh, well, no, I haven't. I can't remember. I can remember the days when Don Mills Comets used to pull the keeper more or less at the end of every period.
Cardiff did it to us not that long ago, actually.
Yeah.
Last couple of seasons, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a risk, but it's a risk that at that point you might as well have taken. I mean, it was all looking really quite, almost rosy at one point, and then us being the Nottingham Panthers, it all sort of fell apart. I tell you, pulling it did work for that long ago. Newcastle Vipers. Or it could have even been when they were the Jesters. I forget, but they put it with about 10 minutes left and won the game.
Not against us, surely.
Not against us, no.
No, but I suppose it does show you that it can be done, and I personally, and if anybody listens to last week's podcast, I'd written the result off. I had absolutely no faith. I personally had no faith that we were coming back from that heavy a defeat in our own barn when we had to go over to somebody else's to finish the job. So I suppose you have to applaud the efforts of the Panthers. They did what a Corey Nielsen team does, I suppose. It was a cup competition, and that's traditionally where we flourish. So I suppose really you do have to tip your hat a little bit to the team for actually trying to make a good go of it.
Yeah, I mean, they could easily have just gone over there and not tried, and written it off the same way we did. But so fair play to them for that. If we could have defended, it might have been a bit different. But hey, that's another part of the season which is now gone. Things are dwindling, shall we say? Which I'm sure we're going to get onto in a minute.
Aren't we just?
It's how often do we say that with the Panthers? It's too little, too late. The score in Belfast was irrelevant. It's the week before that killed us. That abysmal showing that we put in the home leg. That's what killed us. So at the end of the day, what happened in Belfast? Yeah, good old college try and all this, that, and the other. But it's a two-leg game. We tried hard in the second, but if you want to win anything like that, you've got to try hard in both.
Indeed, yes, and
I think we'll watch this week, aren't I?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll leave that there, to be honest. Last thing to say is congratulations to the Belfast Giants, who will be meeting the Cardiff Devils in the final, which is on the 4th of March at Ice Arena, Wales.
Yeah, but that's the difference. I mean, I know it was home and away, and it was the other way around for Cardiff, but they could overturn a deficit like we had.
Yes, and they did that in spectacular fashion, didn't they?
Mess it up. Yeah, exactly. And that's the difference between a team that's currently 7th and a team that's currently top of the league.
Yes, and I'm sure that won't be the last time we reference the league positions relative to our opponents.
I'm warming up to a theme, I think, here.
Yes. Yeah, I can feel a theme developing, I must admit.
Talk to Ant for a minute while I calm down.
Well, Ant, I'll let you have first talk about Saturday, which you can talk about all but about the last 10 minutes because I believe you left. So
yep.
So but anyway, I'll run through it anyway. We hosted our nearest and dearest from up the road, and we came away with a 4-0 defeat.
Skulked away with our tail between our legs would probably be a better way of putting it.
Yes, I thank our resident thesaurus, Paul Baum, for a better turn of phrase than what I could come up with. Westerling got a hat-trick courtesy of an even strength and 2 power play goals, and Valdix stuck the knife in if it wasn't already. The knife was probably already there. He just sort of finished the job with an empty netter. I'll jump about a bit, actually, as to what what we have written down, as it were. Yeah, that's fine. We have once again given Mustakovs a shutout, despite our compadre, Mr. John O'Bullard, telling anybody who will listen, shouting from the high hills that Mustakovs is a terrible netminder. He has far and away the most shutouts in the league. I think it's more than double the next best person in the league. So, is he is he a good netminder, or is he just in the team's heads? And has Mustakov's got into our head?
What Simsy and co probably do is every time Jono talks about the Moose, he probably plays it to him before the Panthers games. And if it doesn't matter how average or good or below average you are, if you're motivated and you're really wanting to put on a show, you will play above yourself. We've said it time and time again about teams coming to the NIC and playing above themselves to what they normally do because they're at the NIC. It's a nice arena. They're playing in a world famous arena. Apparently, they're playing the world famous Nottingham Panthers. I'm saying this all tongue in cheek, by the way, for anybody that's thinking otherwise. So you know what? Because we had this conversation, didn't we? I came into Bunkers after one of the games this season, and I asked Jono, I was like, is it really that he's not very good? Is it because he's lucky, or is he actually? Do we have to think to ourselves, you know what, we have to tip our hats to him? But then you look at what happened to him in Cardiff. It's like, I'm sorry, but top class netminders don't concede that many goals, regardless.
Yeah, and one thing I will say about him is there's no pattern to Mustakovs at all, because one of the things he was, and he normally wins. But one thing I've noticed, there are certain netminders, starting netminders in the league, where the more shots you put on them, the more likely you are to come out with a win. It's not the case with Mustakovs. There's no pattern at all. He's taken a loss on 19 shots. He's also taken a win on 52, and vice versa. It's just and maybe that's part of it. Maybe his unpredictability is part of what makes him so difficult to beat, I suppose. On some nights it's really odd.
Who was it that Moran was talking about the other season when he said that the player tried to pull a move on the defender, but the defender wasn't where he thought he was going to be? I mean, maybe it's that sort of thing. But I think Paul nailed it on the head on Saturday night in the rain when he's got to question our shot selection.
Oh yeah.
Go, take it on. Take it away.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Now that one thing you've got to consider. I mean, I don't rate Mustakovs. I can't be that bad about him, because I don't think he's blocked me on Twitter yet. And now he has. But how many times were we shooting straight at his body? Can you think of more than 2, perhaps 3 decent shots we put on him all night where he had to make a difficult save? Because I can't, and that's what counts. I mean, he'll look at it and go, because let's face it, he is the Jeffrey Boycott of ice hockey stats. He knows his save percentage down to 3 or 4 decimal places.
And whatever the league reports it as, it's probably going to be wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because he's not winning. Patrick Galbraith is. That was tonight's positive moment. But we do it with every goalkeeper in the league. We seem to think that they've all got a hole in their stomachs, and we're just shooting the puck straight at them, time and time again, and those are never going to go in. So, we've got to be shooting smarter, better, frankly.
Okay. Something that did not help the Panthers' cause one little bit was that we had a bit of a defensive crisis, which it was only going to get worse. Dan Spang still injured. For whatever reason, we did not have Tetlow or Hazeldine on the bench. More to come on that one later. And I believe, I seem to remember it was 15 minutes into the first period, because, just to go off on my own personal agenda, anybody in Nottingham thinking of going to eat at Boozy Bones in the Lace Market, don't bother, because they made me 15 minutes late for a hockey game. It's not acceptable. But So by the by, I'll get back on point. I walked in, sat down, and the next break in play was when Stevie Lee was getting chucked out. So that was the first play I think I saw. Well, and I didn't really see because I was still getting settled into my seat. So we'd have already got Lindhagen covering on D, and so Corey was forced to put somebody else back there. So we're a bit short on the forward lines, but so not a good night to be a Nottingham Panthers defenceman, really, was it, Ant?
No.
Are we still there?
And I still maintain when I said I think it was a deserved call. For me, yes, Fitzgerald's losing an edge and he's already going over, and I've still not seen the video yet, but for me, Lee has the opportunity to at least try to pull out of that check, and he doesn't. So it was a bit of a daft move, and did it cost us? I'd gone past caring by that point, if I'm perfect honest, so I didn't even argue the call.
Yeah, now I mean, you asked the question there, is that what cost us? Well, not scoring goals is actually what cost us in the end. I mean, 4 goals from your opposition, that's not insurmountable if you really put your mind. I mean, a few nights before we scored 6 against Belfast, so we know it's possible, but we just could not get the puck past Mustakovs and delivered him a shutout. Hate to say it again.
3/4 of the time we couldn't get the puck near Mustakovs because the defence were keeping him out. I mean, we hit the post twice, but you're still losing 4-2. Did Lee getting thrown out cost us the game? Probably not. If you'd have lost, 4-3 on with a tired defence hanging on, then you could probably have said yes. But we at the end of the day, we didn't score for the 3rd time at home. So, for the 3rd time in 4 games against Sheffield, we failed to score, and that is simply not good enough.
No, absolutely not. Just a quick question for both of you to answer. To be perfectly honest, I didn't have an awful lot of expectation when it came to this game. I think, quite frankly, I've had the life sucked out of me a little bit, given the results just lately. We seem to be on a bit of a downward trend again. So, were you encouraged that we hadn't conceded in the first period, when in the first period break, or was it more concerning that we hadn't scored? I mean, for me, I'm leaning to the side of, thank God we haven't conceded. Thank God we're not getting absolutely shellacked here. But what's your thoughts, guys?
Scoring's been our problem. Sorry, Paul.
I was probably more relieved than anything that we hadn't conceded. I don't know. To be honest, like you were saying, Tina, all form of expectation has gone. I mean, when we scored so early in Cardiff, the only thing I thought was, we've scored. Good. That was it. That was as far as I could go.
And?
We've been struggling to score goals pretty much all season. People were blaming Schaller. He got gassed and nothing's improved. I say struggling to score goals. I mean struggling to score goals in games that actually mean something. I know we're going to come onto it, but we're out the cup, so that's gone. We've got no chance of winning the league, so that's gone. So there is the playoffs, but to get into the playoffs, you need to build momentum. So other than that, you've got your games against the so-called biggest rivalry in Europe. And so surely the bare minimum you'd expect was the team to turn up against Sheffield and put on a display for another sellout, for the people there to go, you know what, at least they've given it something tonight. At least we can hold our hands up and go, yeah, we've beaten Sheffield. We've not even got that. It's just.
It's hard work, isn't it? It's hard work.
I'm actually I'm starting to get a little bit emotional about the whole thing, and that's winding me up because it's pushing people away. It's pushing people away from the club that have watched this club for years. I mean, I'm a relatively newbie, and I've been going over 10 years now, and I don't want to go. I don't want to go on this weekend. We've got 2 home games, and I don't want to go to either of them because what's the point? It just puts me in a bad mood. I get upset, and then I'm like, what am I wasting my money on? But I've got a season ticket, so what do you do? I know we're going a kind of off tangent, so I'll hand over to Paul to carry on this. So
I'm going to keep going, and just to pick up on something you said about the number of people that are walking away. I mean, you wouldn't know looking at the attendances because for some bizarre reason they're healthier than they were, and I really don't understand that. I mean, but having said that, to be honest, half the people around me on Saturday night couldn't have cared less. Not so much because stuff we're talking about, we're so disillusioned, disappointed, whatever with the team. It's just because they were just there because it was something to do before they went to a club. Let's spend 18 quid to sit there drinking overpriced, undersatisfying beer. I mean, what can somebody actually tell me? What is Panther beer? Is it bitter, lager, cider, or what? Because it tastes of all 3 of them, and none of them all at the same time. But hey, it's only £3. Aren't they so generous to us? But what's happening is we're seeing the people who've been watching for years, and I'm like, and I've got a season ticket, and it's just like, well, if I don't go, I'll be losing money, won't I? But time and time again, you're seeing people say, they've had enough, they're walking away. It's almost become a competition on the cage to see who walked away first. But are all these people who turn up for one game just for a drink and a laugh? If you went and you had half an interest in what's going on there on Saturday night, would you want to go back? Seriously, because I wouldn't. I've got better ways to spend 18 quid just getting in somewhere.
I don't know. They got to see Brown have a pretty decent fight.
Yeah,
it was nice to see him.
Yeah, I've not watched the highlights. I'm assuming that's the only thing that's on them.
From our perspective,
as well as the usual minute and a half of warm up. Who wants a minute and a half of warm up every week? Just so somebody can waffle on about the game. We know what it is. We know what's going on. Just show us the, in inverted commas, highlights.
Well, I mean, what I'm starting to get a little bit more worried about than anything is, are we turning, and this is not meant in any disrespect to those over the Irish Sea, but are we turning into a Belfast?
Oh, we started giving pizza away.
We did didn't we? Yes, we were doing that. But not for that. I mean, are we entertainment rather than a sports team?
I think
and I'm not meaning... I'm not going down the route that they've gone down on the cage where it's all predetermined, because I think that's a load of nonsense. It's not, WWE. However, if we were a serious sports team, how has this managed to happen?
Yeah. Are we just putting a show on it? Is it just come down? There is a game. I mean, it strikes me. The whole ethos of this club, and I have said this season after season. You can go back and look at the stuff I've written. You can listen to the ones in there. I'm saying nothing new here, so basically I'm just rehashing stuff because basically it feels like we're in Groundhog Day. It strikes me that the whole ethos of this club is wrong. We are about, we've got Moran forever spouted. It says versus, not beating on the ticket. That's fine. Yeah, that's right. You cannot expect to go into every game, expecting to win. But that sort of says to me, oh, it doesn't really matter because it says versus. I've got my get-out clause. You watch when the opposition score a goal. You watch that screen. Every time there's an advert, straight first thing on there is the advert for the next game. It's not there's always next year. It's there's always next week.
Tina, take it away. Before we take this.
I was going to say, I was just letting you. No, it's fine. I was just letting you guys crack on. I was just sitting back and wound you up and watched you go. It was like watching a Scale Extric or something. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Shall we go to a few comments?
Well, just one other thing I wanted to pick up on for this game. I'm not sure who was doing Panthers Hockey Live, the commentary on Saturday, but I seem to remember a tweet from Panthers Hockey Live that said a lot of calls around me, a lot of shouts for the team to show some passion, and that's not the only tweet that I've any kind of social media that I've seen that has had that sort of leaning to it. So just a quick notice on that, just a quick sort of point on that. There does seem to be that there's been criticism of the team not showing any passion, and I think that there are there's also a lot of people who are for passion. They're also for lack of passion they're reading lazy and not bothered. Now, agree or disagree with me if you like, but when I watched the home leg of the Challenge Cup semi-final, that was one thing, because I was sat with Jono and he said something along those sort of lines, and I said, well, no, actually, to me, it looks like they're lost. It looks like they don't know what to do, and I don't think. I've said this before. I will reiterate it. I don't think that they don't care. I think they just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Thoughts, guys?
I think you're possibly right, and it's something that's reflected a lot in the comments that we've had. There's both sides.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, give us the comments, Paul. Let's have let's have another ray of sunshine to add to this this happy party that we've got going on.
If your initials are CN, I'd leave the room now. I feel for Corey, but only to a degree. At the end of the day, he isn't getting the performance. So whichever way you look at it, he's failing. Time to go, Corey. It's a bit, yeah. Some normally good players seem to have been invisible this weekend. Lack of plan, all just hit and hope. No leadership on or off the ice. Utter rubbish for a team of our size. It isn't anywhere near good enough. This team is a joke. Only player that truly cares is Garnett after looking at his post-game interview. Oh, well, sir, that will save me money for the rest of the season until the playoffs. Used to go to get something we were just talking about. Used to go to game with hope that we'd get a win or at least play well. But now we are going into games and I'm expecting to lose, and it doesn't even bother me. After the CHL exit, another theme. The fact that, and we've talked about this so many times before, the fact that the CHL and the performances there make everything so much worse now. After the CHL exit, the wheels seemed to fall off for no apparent reason. Players were performing well, suddenly appeared to lose their ability. The squad hadn't changed, so what was going on? I don't know. Lost for words. Perfect time for another Q&A. Perfect time for a new GM more than anything, personally. What a load of rubbish. No passion against the Steelers whatsoever. Dire performances all weekend. Serious changes need to be implemented next season, or else me and my partner won't be renewing our season tickets. This season's spiralling out of control. I think it's probably a bit past that one, but yeah. I don't. But on the other side, I don't subscribe to the opinion that players aren't trying or playing hard. Perhaps they lack the extra 1 or 2% gain by being engaged and well motivated. Saturday night was a real eye opener of how bad two biggest rivals in Europe have become. Not sure either team will make the playoff weekend unless they play each other. Can't believe it was a sellout. The players have lost their way under Nielsen. The style of offensive dump and chase doesn't suit them, and I don't think they believe in it. That is clear from the players' body language and the results. Farm, Pelini and Phillips have all transformed completely. Key performances that aren't producing. And again, another positive. Brown constantly gave his all this weekend. And a nod to Bouzier for filling the hole in defence. No doubt we'll discuss Tetlow in a minute.
Well, I mean, to be honest, let's.
I could keep going.
Let's talk about Tetlow now, because we didn't have him on Saturday, or Hazeldine, who has iced for us in the Challenge Cup game, and could have given a shift off to a very tired set of defenders here and there, because that's the sort of desperation levels we seem to be at. Not wanting to, do a disservice to Hazeldine, but he's very young, inexperienced at this level. So, but I'm sure he's doing really, really well for Swindon. But I think playing with at this level at the Elite League is, I think he'd be more sort of doing a job. I feel like I'm digging a hole now because I feel like I really have been. I feel like I've really stuck the knife into poor Joe Hazeldine now. But this one thing we all said. We were all incredulous to start with that Tetlow wasn't on the bench. He wasn't available for us when we were already a defenceman short, knowing that we were going to be a defenceman short. I mean, no idea what sort of arrangement that we have with Bracknell, and who gets first dibs if that's how it goes, or if there's a certain percentage of games we can have him for or not. That's we're not privy to that information. But one thing that and I think it started off as a throwaway comment, but I think it might have been me that said it. It was, if Tetlow was on the bench, what's the guarantee you got any ice time anyway?
Well, exactly. We were talking about that last weekend.
Yeah, well, he's
and the only thing I can maybe put it down to, there's a reason he's not playing, is the team is so lacking in confidence. The management don't want that to rub off onto Tetlow, because he's a hell of a prospect. We saw that when he filled in for Gagnon.
Yeah.
If that is left, right, and centre.
Yeah, and if that is the case, then the team need to be applauded a little for that, because you need to protect certain players, and
that's the only thing I can think of is the reason why he's not getting games, and when he was dressed for us last weekend, why he didn't get any ice time. It's the only thing I can think of.
Okay. Well, unless we want to keep ploughing on this point, we'll sort of move on to Sunday, last night's game.
There is one thing I would like to say about the comments, just to thank everybody for sending them in. I literally got halfway through what we'd got, and I was editing, taking bits out of various people. So if we haven't read yours out this week, then I'm really sorry, but we literally just had so many, and it's probably our own fault because that's what we asked for. But it just goes. But just like I was saying as I was going through them, there are so many themes that the CHL was great, and it makes this so much worse. Yeah. The lack of passion, the lack of motivation, I'm afraid people questioning the coaching. It's not cheerful reading. In fact, one person said, just to finish with all these, before we move on. This one, I'm sick of the hate, the attacks, the poison on social media. I get it. Fans are unhappy. They are entitled to be unhappy. But the sheer nastiness online doesn't help. This is a crisis of confidence, and the feedback from fans braying for sackings doesn't help. I get what you mean, but there's also the fact that, that's sport. It's a results. At the end of the day, it's a results-driven job.
There is only so far you can go, though. I think I made this comment on one of the Facebook groups in that I go out and I have said multiple times over the last few weeks that we are just basically not playing well. We're rubbish, and things have got to change. Yada yada yada. But when it gets personal, that's when I start to get uncomfortable. And I have seen some pretty bloody awful things out there. And at the end of the day, as bad as we perceive them to be playing, nobody deserves. If I was performing bad at work, I'd expect something to be done about it. What I don't expect is random people coming up to me, shouting and screaming in my face, "You're effing useless," blah blah blah. You know what I mean? So there is a line. There is a line, and unfortunately, because of how bad we have been this season and last season domestically, it's starting to turn a little bit nasty, and that I'm starting to get uncomfortable with that.
Well, I think. Sorry, if I can just jump in for a sec. I think the other thing to note as well is that it's not just the players who are on the receiving end of this. There's a lot of fighting within our own fan base. The fan base is turning on each other, and that's getting personal as well. And that's that's uncomfortable to sit and read as well.
So at the end of the day, we all see things differently. We all, us three, will see things differently. Fans of different teams see things differently.
I agree with Aaron. Oh no, that was last week, wasn't it?
That was last week.
That was too much. But that's one of the great things about sport, the way different people see things differently. But you've also got to respect that. You might not agree with it, but everybody gets something different from following a sport, whatever sport that is. There's that article that the woman from Sheffield wrote that was on the website, that about the sense of belonging that she gets from it. Other people, just take different. Some are happy clappers, some aren't. No one of those people is better than the other. My opinion is not better than anybody else's. It's probably less informed than most people's, but it's not better or worse than anybody else's. And that goes the same for everybody. And unfortunately, opinions are like backsides. Everybody's got one, and most of the stuff that comes out is about the same. But, we fighting amongst ourselves really isn't gonna help. And quite frankly, it's all down to the run of results. If we were playing well, everybody would be getting on fine. But it's that same thing. As soon as things start going badly, some people turn on others, and it starts getting unpleasant for me. And, I start avoiding those, those outlets, shall we say?
Yes. So, I think possibly the thing to take from all of this is, can we please remember what reasoned debate is all about? And just because you have an opinion, it doesn't make you right. So
no, we can't.
Just don't. Just because somebody doesn't agree with your point of view, it doesn't give you a right to call them names and such things like that. So anyway, back off the soapbox, and we'll move on to Sunday's game, as unpleasant as that one is as well. Nothing to see here. Move along. But probably not an unexpected loss out of the 2 weekends, because we don't do well in Wales at all, and unfortunately we haven't won away in Wales this season, and we're not going to, because that was the fourth and final trip down to Ice Arena Wales for the Panthers. 7-3 loss, and Panthers goals are coming from Brown, Phillips and Sauvé. Opposition goals, Farina with a hat-trick +1, Ulmer, Haddad and Crowder. The first thing to note, and I've deliberately left this out when I was reading out the Panthers scorers, is that all of our goals came on the power play. What witchcraft is this?
Well, I know Sauvé's goal upset somebody, because they'd had it down as a 7-2. So when Sauvé scored with 20 seconds to go, he was most upset.
Yeah. Might that be somebody not too far away from us right now, Mr. Marijan?
Yeah, not too far away.
Yeah. I thought it might be. Yeah, I'm joking, because in our predictions league WhatsApp group, I think there were a few rounds of expletives from you after that one went in. But yeah, just to get back on the point, 3 power play goals. So Saturday night we couldn't hit a cow's backside with a banjo, and our power play has been absolutely awful to bang average all season. And in one game, all 3 of our goals are power play goals. Anybody got an explanation for that?
In a word, no.
No.
If I was Andrew Lord, I'd have those Cardiff Devils in this morning trying to work out why. Don't give them a day off. They might have scored 7, but to let the limp, lifeless stick of 3-month-old celery that is our power play. Quite frankly, it's unbelievable. I mean, every time you watch our power play, you watch other people's power plays, they can exert pressure with it. They keep it in the zone. They're moving it about. We get it into the zone within seconds. We've lost it. Half the time we were, sat there in the previous weeks, been dumping and chasing, and that didn't work in the 80s. So ours is just nothing. It exerts no pressure in the way other teams do. And again, that's why one of the reasons why we're 7th.
See, I mean, I've had the benefit of being able to watch a bit of the Winter Olympics. And yesterday, I was watching the women's Swiss team versus Japan, and the Swiss team were on a power play, and one of their players scored an absolute beauty, and it was after several passes in quick succession that had just gone bang, 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 goal scorer in. And it was a really, really tight angle, and she didn't have a lot to shoot at, all the rest of the cliches, and it went through. And I looked at that power play, and I was so jealous. Because
what you've just described there, though, don't you? Our power play, the season we won the league.
I know.
How many pucks did we have that went from David Ling on one side across to Bruce Graham, who just shot it straight back on a tight angle into the net?
I know, and the thing is now, what I see from our power play, right? You've got one guy who has the puck. He looks up, passes it to somebody else. That somebody else takes a touch, looks at the goal, realises that everybody's set themselves and there's no way through, and then they look around, pass it to somebody else, who takes a touch, looks at goal, realises that everybody's set up, so there's no way through. Are you getting where I'm going here? It's just
not quick enough.
No, it's not. And the thing is, you get all this, this 2-touch, passing going on, and then there's crowd pressure because everybody's just getting so fed up with watching it and just going shoot. Yeah, and that's another.
See, that also gets on your nerves.
Exactly.
That also gets on your nerves. Move it about.
Yeah.
And why? And I'm sorry. I keep banging on about stuff tonight. I will let you two get a word in edgeways at some point. Why do we spend so little time with a man with his backside in the opposition netminder's face? Why do we never have anybody go in front of the net and stay there?
Ding.
Yeah, but I wasn't ready for that. I didn't have a sound effect ready for it.
Well, no, I mean, we were, me and my mates who I sit with were talking about it on Saturday, one of the power plays in particular, and we were just screaming. It's like, blooming move! Because, like you were saying, Tina, it's not just taking a touch and then looking up and seeing that there's no shots on. They don't move. They have one player either side of behind the net, and then two wingers, and then a point man. And they just basically pass it in a circle one way, pass it in a circle the other way. There is nobody trying to change position or, try and pull a defender out the way or something like that. Nothing at all.
One thing I will say...
And I'm not a hockey player. I don't understand how this works. I'm just seeing it, from an outsider. Surely, how hard is it to get players transitioning and trying to, move the defenders around and what have you? I don't get it.
See,
And I'm going to calm down now.
No, yeah, just meditate.
I'm going to have a bit of Natalie's birthday cake and let you carry on.
Just meditate for a second, Antoine, before you explode. One thing I will say. I mean, just to sort of back up what the pair of you have said. I watched a bit of the highlights that I had time to from yesterday's game because I didn't get the webcast or anything. And our first goal on that Brown scored on the power play. The Icetown TV guys originally called it a sauve because they didn't realise that Jeff Brown had actually tipped it in. But Jeff Brown was parked in front of Bounds. He was just there. He was taking Bounds' eyes away. So. Yeah. Even if Brown hadn't have touched it, there is a chance that Savo would have got it in, but Brown just made absolutely doubly sure.
Look at that game. Was it last season when we went down there? We won something like 8-0.
Oh, them were the days, weren't they?
The good old days. Yeah. you watch the highlights of that, and
that's that bad when you call in last season's the team the good old days.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry, but that is the point we have reached. But we had a man in front of Bounds. There's one goal where he's looking all round somebody, trying to see through somebody's legs, and he's completely offside, and the puck just sails past him. There's a reason why teams for years have put a man in front of the net. It works. If it didn't, most teams would stop doing it.
Yes,
we
indeed.
Don't. Can somebody, we'll have, send us a tweet or whatever and explain to me why we don't.
At Cats Whiskers TV, please.
Yeah.
Yes,
moving swiftly on, shall we? Because it's getting a bit depressing now.
I've unfortunately, I can't think of any. I can't think of anything that's going to actually pull the show back up. But anyway, we'll talk about
the Elite League. We've got a sponsor for the playoffs. That's positive.
We'll get onto that in a minute. Just a quick note for the game yesterday. Steve Lee was serving the first of his 2-game ban, as announced by DOPS. Video is not out as yet, but I think it does take them a couple of days to put that all together. But they have obviously felt it warranted, and you yourself have said it was, the call was, it was
I thought
fine.
the call was spot on.
You
know what? But what do I know? Apparently, I know absolutely nothing based on the comments that we received.
Yes, indeed.
It must have been something for a 2-game ban. That's all I'll say.
Yes. However, we are apparently at enough of a crisis point to give Josh Tetlow some shifts on Sunday. With us knowing that there was going to be no Stevie Lee, knowing that Lindhagen is probably confined to be a defender probably for the rest of his season, and knowing that Bussier is also going to be a defenseman until probably at the very least until Spang comes back, which he's apparently in training, and we'll see how that develops. I'm sure the Panthers will let us know of any developments as and when, and if not, then hint Panthers, because we'd like to know. Okay, we'll leave we'll leave the games there. I think we've whinged and moaned enough about all of that, and I think it's time to get on a different train. I'll just run over a few of the results from the past week. As we've already alluded to, the Cardiff Devils did manage to overturn their deficit against the Sheffield Steelers, and it was 7-1 on the night, and they are going to be meeting the Belfast Giants in the Challenge Cup final, so well done to you. A couple of surprising results over the weekend. I don't think many people saw the Storm turning over the Belfast Giants on Sunday over in Belfast, so that was a bit of a tidy win for the Storm at 6-3. A couple of comments that I have seen regarding that, couple of cheeky little comments. Imagine what the Storm could have done if they hadn't wasted a roster spot on Rosehill, who's currently banned, but that's somebody else's words, not mine. That's somebody else's words.
Permanently.
Well,
I think with Rosehill, they sort of amount to the same thing, don't they?
Yes, quite.
Did it manage to hit the curtain?
I haven't got a clue. Muskov's not the only one getting a shutout on Saturday. Mike Clemente from the Manchester Storm got himself a shutout in a 3-0 victory against the Flames. What was the other surprising result I wanted to... Coventry Blaze popping up with a 4-point weekend, going up to Fife and taking the points there, and then holding their nerve against the Lightning at home. So they're sort of starting to creep up in what a few of the Clan fans are calling the race for 8th.
Clan had a 4-point weekend as well.
Yes, they did, and it's kind of at the minute we're kind of looking over our shoulder a little bit. I mean, I believe we've got 4 games in hand over them, so we do have the opportunity to pull away. But 4
games and 5 points.
Yeah, but points in the bank, better than games in hand. Ding,
yep.
ding, 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 ding. So it feels a little bit nervy, and I think because of the disparity between games, I think it's more of a mental boost for the Clan to see how the table looks now, rather than thinking about the games in hand and the potential points that we could pull away from them. So that's jostling for 8th place is going to be an interesting one in the final month and a half of the season.
They've still got 2 games to play against us, so they're the old cliche of 4-point games. They win both of those, which, let's face it, is not beyond the realms of possibility. That only puts them a point behind us.
Yeah. That's a very sobering thought, isn't it? Yep. So we'll leave the results there, and we'll come on to our bit of a talking point. Really, it was announced today that the Elite League have a new partner who will also be sponsoring the playoffs. And I'll be honest, the way I read this, first of all, I thought it was an Elite League sponsor. That's not the case. I've reread the press release. PredictorBet, an online betting platform. They are currently developing an app which will be out around March time. Doesn't seem to be an awful lot of information about them at the moment, and it's had a mixed reaction from Elite League fans. So, chaps, take it away, because I'm interested to know what you think about this particular arrangement.
I don't see why people have got an issue with it, to be honest. What are they expecting? 365 or William Hill to come and sponsor the Elite League? No chance at this current stage. We've got a sponsor, and it's not even a main title sponsor. It's a sponsor for a particular, tournament. That's got to be a positive. It's a 3-year deal, like you said as well. So there's a bit of longevity there. Let's see how it works out. I mean, any more publicity that the Elite League can get in a positive way is a good thing. Go, Paul.
All the sort of concerns about online betting platforms and things. Am I the only one who thinks it's slightly ironic that a bunch of people who change the rules when they feel like it, almost at the whim, and think that it's perfectly all right to have 5 balls in a 4-ball carrier bag, for a cup draw, sponsored by an online betting company. I mean, what's that phrase? Yeah, that's it. The house always wins. I just, like Ant says, it was never going to be anybody big throwing money at us because, quite frankly, there are certain aspects of our league which are a joke.
I mean, it's a start, I suppose. We seem to be at a bit of an odd point in the league. I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. The last league sponsor that we had were ambulance chasing solicitors. So, and then fine. They had it was an absolute sponsorship deal for the whole league. That fell away. We've got no TV coverage, and like you say, there's no big sponsorship. People coming in for us. There's no big company coming in to sponsor as well. They're not going to get TV exposure. I think the league have dropped a bit of a ball, really. I mean, admittedly, they probably didn't see it coming, but not keeping on with the deal with Premier Sports. If we'd have kept the deal with Premier Sports, we could have found ourselves on Free Sports, which is on various, which is free to air on various platforms. That would have got us a little bit of exposure. It would have been a level of exposure that probably would have suited us, and probably would have meant that we could have attracted a bit of a credible sponsorship, perhaps. That's just I don't want to completely write it off, because who knows where it could lead. Maybe having the sponsorship could maybe give us a bit of, maybe financial clout to go out there and get some kind of TV deal. I don't really know how these things work, but yeah, let's. We've got to see where it goes, if it works out, and what the Elite League are actually going to do with it, and what they're actually going to do, because Predictabet themselves seem to be in very early stages. So perhaps there's a certain amount of moulding that they need to do, and this is their way of getting themselves out there. I don't know. I mean, there's an awful lot of variables in that, I suppose.
I think the point you make there, Tina, about what are they going to do with the money is a very good one. There are all sorts of things that they could spend, and probably should spend it on, but will they? We'll see.
Indeed. Okay, before we move on to the games this weekend, Paul, I'm going to hand over to you for Player of the Week.
Oh, I better get my notes out.
Did I say caught you by surprise there, didn't I?
Yeah, it's not like we've never done it before, is it? Okay, well, in an unsurprisingly low-scoring week, I'll just rattle through these. Third place was Jeff Brown, presumably providing one of the very, very few highlights on Saturday night. But, he's in a decent run of goal-scoring form as well. So he's one of the few, beyond the fighting, he was highlights on Saturday. Second place, Jan Sauvé. Baggy's not been up in the top three for a while. And first, unsurprisingly, Mike Garnett. I mean, there's one save he made Saturday night that was just, you could see the quality that we've been looking for so often. He might have let three in, but there you are.
Right. Okay. Well done to Mike Garnett, and thank you very much for providing us that. I think the one you're talking about was it the double pad stack a la Marty Brodeur? Are we talking about that one?
It was the very, very quick glove. First period, I think it was.
Oh, I might not have seen that.
You missed it, yeah.
Yeah, I might not have seen that. Yeah, I was too busy waiting for my dinner to arrive.
It sort of ended up dropping behind him, and somebody needed to save him. But goal is creed. It didn't go in.
Right, okie dokie. Right, well, this weekend we have a weird scenario. We have 2 home games. I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. Not quite sure how I feel about this. But yeah, Saturday night we'll see the Devils come up to the NIC, and the Clan will be coming down from the north on Sunday. So just a quick little bit of background. At home, we have a fairly decent record against Cardiff. We're on 7 wins, 2 losses, and an overtime loss. But we're not doing all that well at the minute, so can we turn it around at home, boys?
Well, we didn't think we could last time we played them. But having said that, no, I don't think we can.
I think there is an awful lot of I think there's an awful lot of lack of confidence around the room, isn't there? Really, so it could be a tough one. Ant, how are you feeling about this one?
I've just depressed myself because I've just realised I'm going to be seeing the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row for the Panthers, with those 3 away games the following weekend in Scotland. So come on, surprise me, Panthers. But no, I've got no enthusiasm. I don't even want to predict a result.
No, and hopefully we'll have Dan Spang back, because I believe this will be the second game of Steve Lee's 2-game ban, so we're not going to have him. I would like to think that we will, if we are able to, call dibs on Tetlow, so that we can get him out there for some shifts. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? we get another 7-3 shellacking. It's not. Cardiff are just in the groove, and they're so far ahead nobody can touch them at the moment, and they're playing with a confidence that we all envy, I think. So I think this one will be a bit of a touchy one. It'd be nice if we can get a result, but I think we're up against it, to be honest, in terms of physical issues and mental issues as well.
Well, it would be just like us to lose at home to like Belfast and then beat the league-leading Cardiff Devils at home.
Yes, it would be so typically Panthers, wouldn't it? Yes, very much so. Sunday we will be playing the Braehead Clan. Clan, as I mentioned earlier, they'll probably be extra motivated to come and take the points from us, because we're in their sights a little bit. The deficit in points at the moment is sort of doable for them, and I think it'll give them a bit of a mental boost. But our record against them at home in the last 10 games, 9 wins and 1 loss. That 1 loss coming this season, early in this season, which was a bit of a surprise win for them, because they had a terrible start to the season, and I think that's sort of partly contributing to where they are currently in the table, in a bit of a playoff dogfight, as it were, with Dundee nipping at their heels. So there's an awful lot to play for, really, for Clan, because much like us, only 1 trophy to play for now, really. What do you think, guys?
If we're going to win either of the games this weekend, it'll be this one. I'm not confident. I haven't said that yet.
Hey, he's back.
But again, it's not. I can't exactly. Yeah, I've got no excitement for it whatsoever, and in a lot of ways that makes me feel pretty down. Frankly, that we're in this situation where this club we love, and it's just like. Yeah, it's a game against Cardiff. It's a game against Braehead. Great, wow. Sorry.
Yes. Well, you never know. I'll inject a little bit of positivity where I can, but you never know. We could maybe see a couple of wins out of this, put a bit of daylight between us and Braehead, and maybe get ourselves back into a slightly more comfortable playoff position. But that's about as much enthusiasm as I can muster up at the moment, unfortunately. And as I said on Saturday in our mini podcast, when the self-confessed happy clapper in comparison to everybody else on the Cat's Whiskers is feeling unenthused about the Panthers season, then you know that you're in trouble. So
I'm trying my best, but I just can't.
Yes, yes, indeed. So basically, Panthers, give us something to cheer about, please, because we're tired of talking like this. We care too much, and we want to see better. We want to see.
If we're going to rescue anything from this season, which obviously it's got to be the playoffs now, we need to start building momentum. And I know I've been starting to bang on about this the last few weeks now, but momentum is everything. We need to start building that now, and it's got to start. You need to inject some enthusiasm back into the team and back into the fan base, because at the moment it's as low as I can remember it.
I mean, our teams, sort of have these hashtags, Operation Playoffs and all this, that, and the other. Well, right now our sort of playoff theme is actually a beeping noise, the sort you hear when a van's reversing.
And I think we'll leave all of that, the games and everything there. And as I say, throwing down the gauntlet to the Panthers, please give us something to cheer about, and give us a reason to be happy, or at least a little bit happy on a podcast, because we don't like talking like this any more than you like hearing the fan base talk about this. And so it's got to change. So, just a couple of public service announcements there. Despite what I said on Saturday in our mini podcast, there won't be an Ask TCW this Wednesday, and we are going to move to a fortnightly show for the remainder of the season. So, next week, I do have to confirm this, but we should have a guest. I will be confirming that with him before I sort of reveal who it's going to be, because he did ask me to, because he said he'd probably forget, because we organised it ages ago. But yes, we may have a guest next week, so please continue to send in your questions anyway. We will save them for next week's show.
Even though we're not doing it, Tina, we have actually got a question which I feel we can answer now.
Yes, go on.
Kenwin Jones.
Ah, yes. Hello, Kenwin.
I understand his actual Twitter name. I think it must be some sort of Welsh word or something.
I have no idea.
So how many of you will still be convening on a weekly basis, chatting and sharing your thoughts about hockey next season? Hashtag John No Worries. There are no worries there, Kenwin. There will actually be more of us, because we're the only ones who will work with Jono. Nobody else will. So actually, him not being here has increased. I mean, I'm back. I won't work with him anymore, I tell you. So there will be more of us. Don't need to worry about that. We'll be spouting this drivel for months, years to come.
Oh, hurrah, hurrah.
See, we're finishing on a positive.
Yay! So, yes, just to reiterate, no Ask TCW this Wednesday. We will be broadcasting next Wednesday, whether or not there's a guest, but I'm hoping to confirm with him. And also, this time next week, there will not be a review podcast, because we're going to pubcast on Sunday night again. So after the Clan game on Sunday, we will be in the Bunkers Hill, and we'll be live, and hopefully it won't be too loud in there, and hopefully we won't be too drunk.
And it won't be raining.
Yeah, well,
in case we do have to go outside.
Don't worry, I'll bring me big brolly.
Mind you, if it's anything like the last Sunday game, it was like Morrissey's Stag Night in there, so I think we'll be fine.
Oh dear. And I think that about wraps up all the podcast items and all the public service announcements. So all that is left for me to say is thank you very much to Paul Baum.
Thank you very much, and I'm deeply sorry for anybody who's actually listened to all of this.
And Antoine Marie-Jean.
No problem. Take care. Have a good night.
I've been Tina Taylor.
Or morning or afternoon.
Yeah, depending on when you're listening. I've been Tina Taylor. Thank you very much, and come and join us Sunday if you can.
This edition of the Cat's Whiskers podcast was brought to you by the Bunkers Hill Hockley.